So recently I got an opportunity to visit the sacred land of Vrindavan, a place that echoes the name of Lord Krishna, a place where spirituality isn't just practiced, it's lived, it's felt in every heartbeat. I was there with none other than Manish Chokhani. Manish is not just a stock market veteran, but he's also a man on a mission to transform how we think about education, about giving back, about what really matters in life. So we first visited the iconic Krishna Balram temple and then we headed to the ISKCON Gurukul at Ajai while visiting their Gaushala and seeing Manish there feeding the cows with such care, it made me think about his approach to philanthropy. So I asked him what giving back to the society actually means to him, and this is what he had to say.
So it's a nature of feeling grateful. I don't think giving is a very Western concept. I don't think we should glorify whatever anyone does as, oh, I'm giving. Uh, Again, I'm saying we grew up thinking that we are like a conduit through which the electricity passes. So God gives you a certain skill or a certain vantage point from which to view the world, right? It's like you may have a skill of being a great journalist and that's your vantage point to view the world. A cricketer may have a great skill of playing cricket to entertain the world and that's his or her vantage point. A movie star is anyway playing the natural role of being an actor. So that's what we are. We believe that we've come in this world like a university to learn certain lessons. So how we go to university, I want to learn physics, chemistry, biology, or someone wants to learn accounting and finance. Same way, there are certain things that we've come in this life to learn and experience. And through that journey, like when the river flows, it's not thinking, oh, I'm irrigating the field here, oh, I'm making the delta over there. It's a flow, it just keeps happening naturally. So that's really the underlying philosophy of our family forever. And that's how we hope to take it forward.
Manish isn't just writing checks and calling it philanthropy. He's supporting something absolutely game-changing, the creation of the Bhaktivedanta University. It's not just any other university. Here we're talking about reviving thousands of years of Vedic knowledge and combining it with world-class modern education. Basically, bringing back India's ancient glory as the ultimate learning destination, just like it was centuries ago when students from across the world came here to learn. But I was curious, why education? Out of all the things he could invest his time and money into, why did he choose education as his life's mission? I just want to understand from you, in terms of education, which is your passion, how did you stumble upon this? Did it come very naturally to you? Is it something that you always had dreamed of?
To be honest, life keeps giving you go down a certain path and that opens optionalities. And opportunities seek you if you're ready for it. So, for example, we've been associated with education after, the Sena Venam, which Nimij Bhai set up Flame to basically build a country to take back what I think we had lost, where we just grew up as read, memorize, reproduce in our old ICSE system.
Correct.
Which the British had set up for their purpose. India of the traditional values was the thought leader of the world, right? You go back 1,000 years, and I know it sounds like, why are you talking 1,000 years ago? But we were the technological leaders of the world. We gave the zero, we gave the alphabets, we gave the Sanskrit language, we gave astronomy, mathematics, so many things which India gave to the world. And our generation growing up felt always, why are we copying from the West? Why do we think I need to take an agency from the West or I need to go abroad to study? Even I went abroad to study. But I discovered my roots much deeper when I was overseas than in India. Because we kind of grew up taking it for granted that, apna to desh aise hi hai. And also it's kind of something which you look down on that, oh, what we are doing here is so backward. Because that's what was drilled into our heads.
Yes.
And as you grow and you explore and you read, you realize there's so much richness and so much wisdom in our philosophy of India and our scriptures that we are doing ourselves a disservice by not having it. So Nimij Bhai, of course, comes from the Jain community, where again it was a thought of how do we give back what we have received to help more and more people to become not job seekers but job creators. So the thought behind Flame was that you build multidisciplinary learning in a liberal arts format. And make these people not worry about how will I go and earn my livelihood, but how do I make a contribution to the world and I may create jobs. And in my journey over there, I'm associated there just, on the governing body. But I also felt if we could find somewhere we could take our Indian values and the modern scientific temperament which the West gave from the outside world. Like Professor Behra, who heads the institution here, he talks about very well that the Indians went inward and became scientists, and the West went outward to become scientists. And if you can marry these two, taking these core values and blending this modernity into it, you will have something which will help India to leapfrog ahead. When we were speaking earlier, I told you of how when I learn music, my Guruji teaches me, "Pehle aap kharaj ki riyaz karo," which kharaj is the deeper tones, the bass tones. That the deeper you dig your foundation, the easier it will be for you to fly.
You know, as a mother myself, I've always wondered, is our current education system actually preparing our kids for the real world, or are we just creating walking, talking textbooks? I mean, we're teaching them to memorize formula, but are we teaching them wisdom? Are we teaching them to survive in this world? Are we teaching them values? Are we teaching them how to actually live? So, for a student or a young person who's looking to become a global citizen at some point, do you think in your heart of hearts that Indian education system that we have currently is enough? Because I do know that the 1% of India is sending their children abroad, like 100 out of 100.
It's changing.
It is?
Because of what you're seeing in the West with the stark differences in the US, for example, which is where we all aspire to go, including my son studied there. But you see how that society is just falling apart. You see in Europe how that society is falling apart. In fact, if I had to draw a historical metaphor, if India was pretty much the United States of the world back in the day, right? Everyone wanted to come here because for trade and commerce, you were the best place. For technology, you were the best place. You were the wealthiest place in the world. You were like what 1/3 of world's GDP. You were the technology exporter to the world. You were sending goods abroad. And in fact, in that lovely book, Dalrymple writes how a Roman governor wrote that these Indians are impoverishing us by the goods they are sending, and all the gold is landing up in India. Very much like how people are crying about China today, for example. So that's what we used to be back in the day. Now, because those societies are like so secure in Europe, as an example, what happened to India? That you're not expecting someone to come and invade you when you're doing well, right? You're at a different level in life. And you can't think if someone's come, he must have come to do trade with me. And in the guise of traders, all the raiders who came, whether first from Turkey onwards, and then later from the European countries, they first came in the guise of traders, and then they took over the country. And in that kind of what I call third generation wealth, where people kind of ignored what we were up to, we went downhill. And that revival is only just starting. So it's not something which 1,000 years of deprivation gets overturned in one generation, probably take 2 or 3. And we are the generation which has the good fortune to sow the seeds, which maybe 2, 3, 4 generations later the country will benefit from. Like, do you know who founded Harvard?
No.
Right? Do you know who founded Oxford or Cambridge? Do you know who had founded Nalanda over here? So you become irrelevant in that. That's really what the egoless life of purpose is. That's really where you should be heading.
You know what? I actually got to witness this vision in action. During our visit, I had a chance to explore their current academic center and I was blown away. Here are kids learning robotics, diving deep into science, coding, artificial intelligence, and all the cutting edge knowledge you'd expect from a world-class institution. But here's the beautiful part. They're also learning Sanskrit, they're studying the Bhagavad Gita, they're understanding their cultural roots as part of their daily routine. Isn't it fascinating? Imagine a generation that has both the analytical thinking of modern education and the wisdom, the values, the spiritual grounding of our ancient traditions. These kids aren't just going to be graduates, they're going to be the leaders of tomorrow who know both how to innovate and how to live meaningfully. Speaking of leaders, Manish himself is a market veteran and needs no introduction. This man has spent decades with the biggest names in the industry. Let's see what he's learned from other market leaders. I wanted to ask you, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned from all these legends that you have met in the past?
Humility and curiosity. They're always learning. They don't think like I'm the cat's whiskers, I've got it all. And humility. Like that 2008 article, Rakesh ji called me and said, Manish, when you likha, I pinned it on the board in front of me. But this is where we all have to go.
What was that? Oh, the article.
That Nirvana wala.
But do you think it's also about being in the right place at the right time? Because I've heard you mention this many times. It's a lottery of the
everyone. No, of course. If you could be born in Bangladesh as a great investor, what's the point?
Yeah.
You'll be dead. Not us. Buffett has said that. No?
Yeah.
If I was not in US and I had not won the ovarian lottery, what would have happened to me?
Yeah.
If Infosys was born today, they won't have achieved anything.
So kids who don't have access, youngsters who don't have access, don't have privilege.
Right.
And 90% of India doesn't.
But these are the guys who made the wealth. No? When we came to the market, who were Mafatlal, Kelachand, Kirloskar, they were the big names. They're not there. Century Textiles used to be the whole index. There was no Ambani, 1990. Jindal. They're all in this era. No?
Did you catch that? Humility, curiosity, and gratitude. And here's the thing, Manish isn't the first person to tell me this. Over the past year, most of the guests who've come on the show, they all come back to these same three qualities. The hunger to keep learning no matter how successful you become. The humility to know that you don't have all the answers. And the gratitude to appreciate everything you have instead of constantly chasing what you don't. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being the most curious, the most humble, and the most grateful. Pretty powerful, right? So this was my Vrindavan experience. How did you like it? Have you been to Vrindavan? Let me know your Vrindavan experiences in the comment section, and all feedback is always welcome. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep that curiosity alive.